Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Behind the Page Wildcat, or maybe it's Wildcat Behind the Page. I'm not really for sure on it, but either way, it's Behind the Page and it's Wildcat. and well, it's episode 2. I have a couple of thoughts, things on my mind. Let me pull this camera closer, because I don't want to project my voice too loud, because it gets annoying. So bringing the camera closer, I don't have to speak as loud. I can just talk, and be a regular human. What all I got on my mind today? Well, first of all, I'm going to show you some notes that I'm working on for the next couple issues that I got planned out for Wildcat. And maybe a little bit of the rough outline, not the rough outline, but like just kind of my general thoughts on how I feel about how I've got everything laid out, some of the benefits and some of the troubles I'm having with it. Hopefully, if I can not be too scatterbrained, I can focus and try to explain all that. Other thing I want to talk about too is just how I feel about things after the new year. I got finished with 100 Days of Making Comics in December, and I would have got done with it probably maybe about a month or so earlier. But I invested so much time into trying to make a really good 100th episode. I felt I owed that to not just to myself, but to my viewers and people that subscribe and follow and just support me and that sort of thing. So I wanted to give back. I decided it didn't really matter if I exceeded the 100 days in the process of doing it, because I already exceeded the 100 days in the challenge of 100 days of making comics. I guess I don't know how many days is it. If you've been drawing for 100 days of making comics takes what is it? I've done forgot. Is it like 3 months? Almost 3 months? Yeah. It takes about 3 months to complete the challenge of 100 days of making comics, and it took me a total of 9 months. So you do the math. Anyway, it was. I'm glad I did it, and I have no regrets about it. I did 90% of what I wanted to do in the 100th episode. There's a couple other things that I wanted to put in it. Another little, like 2 other funny skits. One that was kind of weird, that involved me doing a Mr. Rogers kind of skit. And if I pulled it off, I think it would have been well received, maybe. But if I didn't, it'd have been really creepy. But for time's sake, I decided to cut that idea out, and not even try to film it to see what it would look like. And then I had another skit that I planned on doing, which was what? Oh yeah, it was another Jim Lee skit, and basically, I was going to do kind of like a Star Wars thing, with the whole Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi, you don't have the high ground type thing, and maybe something like that, but not quite, just, I looked at clips of like 300 and things like that. But eventually I settled on doing the Rambo clip, because that was the easiest one to do. And I had another thought about it. I do lament. Is that the right word? Lament, maybe? If it's not, you know what I'm trying to say. I do regret not being able to set up that whole Rambo clip a little bit better, you know, because if you watch my videos in the past, you know, I reference Jim Lee a lot, and that's because I kind of put Jim Lee on a pedestal. You know, he's up here, and I'm somewhere down here, you know, and and it's like in my life, for my personal standard, I have what's called the Jim Lee standard and the Dale Keown standard. These are two similar but different standards. With the Jim Lee standard, it's sort of like the guy was the man at Marvel Comics. He's one of the key people that, you know, had them making millions of dollars selling comic books. That's wild. You know, X-Men was already kind of a big franchise in Marvel, but he, you know, catapulted that to the stratosphere. He left, you know, he helped form Image Comics. Or he was a part of Image Comics, I think was a better way to put it. And because of his contribution, you know, he helped that company to survive, to find its legs and to get where it's at, and he produced a lot of quality material, you know. Out of all the superhero stuff that was put out by Image Comics, I feel like some of his books were some of the better ones. I could be wrong on that, and I mean that from a writing standpoint, because a lot of the art and all the books were really good. That was the selling point of Image Comics to me personally, was the art. But the writing at Wildstorm was a little bit better than a lot of the guys. And it's not in all cases, but in general. And then he goes and, you know, he does the Wildstorm company within Image. It does good. He sells it to DC, which I kind of feel it's a mistake to have done that. But anyway, he becomes like a publisher at DC Comics. Everything that he draws sells gazillions of copies, and he has a consistent quality of artwork, you know. So even on his worst day, as of right now, as me as an artist, even on his worst day, he's still better than me in terms of his layouts, his compositions, his anatomy, his perspective, all that stuff, you know, and a lot more. So when I say the Jim Lee standard, that's what I'm referring to. And so I kind of wanted a little bit of a setup to that in the 100 days of making comics, but I didn't execute it well because I was trying to, you know, churn that video out because it had been a while, you know. But anyway, the other standard, since I mentioned it, the Dale Keown standard. What does the Dale Keown standard mean to me? The Dale Keown standard is when I draw something, I compare it to Dale Keown in the sense of, is it epic? Does it look really cool? Is it awe-inspiring? Could I set my drawing next to Dale Keown, and will it fit comfortably sitting right next to something that he had just drawn or drawn in the past, you know? So the Dale Keown standard is, for me, is more of a artistic standard for the most part. So these two things are kind of like little guide stones on. I'm shaking the camera all over the place, trying to get comfortable here. But these two standards are personal guide stones. One is for in terms of business, I guess, being successful in the industry, and the other one is being my artistic success, you know. So yeah, and the Jim Lee standard, I didn't really get to express that in 100 days making comics, which would have made a really good setup into the Rambo clip, and so it would have made a lot more better sense. But, you know, you can only do what you can do. Moving on from that, I guess my last little bit of thoughts is I feel really invigorated. I feel pretty good at the start of the new year, because I'm working at this janitor job right now. It's something I'd rather not be doing, but the perks of it is, I get holidays off. I get, sick days off. I've never had that before. And a lot of jobs, I had to work during the holidays, Um, a lot of them, even Christmas. And so it's good to know that I'm working at a job where, like, holidays coming up, I'm going to be off, So that's pretty cool. But yeah, sick days and personal days. And then, unless the state law changes in my home state, a lot of this stuff rolls over. So that's pretty cool too, So I'll have even more of that stuff to enjoy. You must excuse me. I'm slightly sick, but I'm recovering. Kind of got like a cold, like flu symptoms, Anyway, so what I was getting to is that basically I've been off for like 2 weeks, which is wild. I've never had that happen before at a job, and I'm going to be paid for these 2 weeks. Wow. Holiday. I was off for the holiday, and it just puts things in perspective for me, and just how refreshed I feel, and how I was actually kind of looking forward to going to work again, because I felt like I'd been off for like 3 years or something, and that's a good feeling to have when you've been off for just like 2 weeks and you feel that way, and so really excited about that, about that feeling that it gave me, and it makes me appreciate the European system of how they do their work a little bit better. If there's some way that we as Americans can kind of meet in the middle with that. I'm not much of a I hate to get into politics. I really don't want to do it because it's divisive, But sometimes it's good to embrace just a tad, maybe like a little taste of socialism. I hate to say it, just a little bit, because it is socialist policies in Europe that lead to people like getting maternity leave and like being able to take like 2 or 3 hour lunch breaks in the middle of the work week, and the middle of the work day, and just regular private sector employees, get like holidays off and stuff like that. So that's pretty cool, because in America, the current system that we have is like we're basically like peanuts, and we have to work ourselves to the bone. It's just constant, unless you have a public sector job where you work for the government. Most Americans, we just work, and and most of us don't really have nothing to show for it other than being able to draw Social Security when we get old, and it really don't pay much. But the benefit to the system is if you're smart and savvy, you can make a lot of money in America, under this system. So it's interesting. But I do wish that we would embrace a little bit more of the European work model, just a little bit, maybe not too much, but I feel like I should edit this out of the video because I don't want people to get upset at what I just said. But I'm gonna leave it in. Fuck it. I'm just gonna leave it in. Anyway, I guess the only other thoughts I have is with this newfound invigoration and stuff like that and perspective. Been thinking a lot about the comic, Wildcat, and the I've sent off the pencils to get photocopied or whatever, on cardstock, and then Will Avenger's doing it for me. He's helping me out because it's hard for me to get out and go places, sometimes, because my work schedule and my babysitter schedule just doesn't line up well for me. So he's going to take care of that for me. And when I get my photocopies back, I'll start inking some of the pages of Wildcat, probably the cover. And what I would like to do is take and color, get it inked, and then find a colorist and start coloring some pieces so I have some promotional materials available. I eventually want to start establishing more of a presence online for the Wildcat comic, so that way I can start promoting it and getting it out there, because the earlier I get started and the more I make people aware of it, the more people is going to be ready to purchase the comic when it comes out, Having said that, let's see what else. Yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to say. And a little while ago when I was talking about politics and stuff like that, or political systems of doing things, if I offended anybody, I apologize. It's not my intent. I'm just kind of shooting off the cuff, just thinking in general, and I really don't want to alienate nobody with my opinions. Also, one time I'm thinking about it, I've got a lot more free time to answer comments and stuff like that, so I'm going to try to get caught up on some of the comments. And I'm really wanting to watch a lot of people's videos that I haven't been able to watch like I've been wanting to, and so I got to get caught up on a lot of that. And so with all that in mind, I actually have a lot to say, but let's just try to keep this video short. I'm going to show you my notes, and we're going to talk about that a little bit, and then we're going to wrap it up and say bye. So let's check out my Wildcat notes and maybe get your thoughts on that. Okay, here we are. My handy dandy notebook. And let me zoom in here. So this is the behind the scenes look at my notes that I'm making for issue 2, issue 3, and what the crap? Tighten this up. Why is that so? There we go, much better. Sorry. And issue 4. And as you can see, some of my notes are a little bit scatterbrained, so as I think of things, I'll write them down. And let me explain to you, sorry, infection. Let me explain to you a little bit about what some of this means. So I make these little bullet points of things that I want to put in the comic, and each one of these bullet points represents anywhere from 1 to 3 pages, could be more pages, but the minimum, of course, is 1, and and the maximum could be whatever, but usually 1 to 3 pages. So the first one, and these are usually in no particular order. I mean, I do have an order in mind, but it's all subjective to what best serves the story. So I could rearrange things. I could actually take things from issue 3, move them over here, and vice versa. Just whatever works out the best. Starting with this first bullet point, it says Joey, Meg, Wildcat talk. So Joey is the male character at the end of issue 1 that you saw, the bald-headed dude. Meg is the fox, and Wildcat is the star of the show. And so basically what I wanted to do there is just have a scene where they're talking, and I can do more character development and let people get to know more of who Joey is, who Meg is, and who Wildcat is. And I wanted to follow up with where we left off with issue 1, with the sheriff's department who were in the woods searching for the bodies. So the old bad guy that you saw in issue 1, what I wanted to do is, he is got his hands in a lot of cookie jars and local politics, a lot of corrupt stuff. And he could be actually out in the woods with the sheriff's department, kind of directing them about the whole thing, because that's how shady it is. And so the sheriff's looking for the bodies of those guys that got killed, which they won't find them because as we learned, Joey and Meg, they got rid of the bodies. Number 3 bullet point is I want to do like a farmhouse montage where it shows Wildcat working around the farm and all this other stuff to get to kind of show that his attachment to the characters and how he's evolving as a character. I wanted a drug meeting in town. So I actually forgot what that means, but I think what I had in mind was I wanted to establish more of why that old guy in the first issue, why he's such a bad guy. And so, he's involved in drugs too, as, he's a doctor and stuff. So I wanted to put that in there. The next bullet point, bad guy talk, hired hitman. So I wanted to put a thing in there where the old guy hires a super-powered hitman to take out Wildcat because he heard the story about of Wildcat in the first issue. So he can't have this wild card in play in his town, so he wants to take him out. And I wrote by here, it should, I'm if I do my job right, and I could probably do this in 1 page, So I may go back, and if I'm happy with all these bullet points, I'll actually do the math and try to figure out mentally how many pages I could tell each one of these bullet points, and then I'll add it up to see if I get about 20 or 24 pages. AA meeting. So I was thinking it would be interesting if Megan went to like an AA meeting or something like that, or some type of meeting where she talks about being a drug addict, and Wildcat goes with her. Yeah, I'm going deep with this book. Anyway, the hitman shows up and attacks Wildcat at the meeting. Wildcat beats him up, and Megan doesn't let Wildcat kill the hitman, in a similar way, sort of like in the Terminator 2, where that boy tells the Terminator that, he's not allowed to kill nobody and this sort of thing. I want to do something sort of similar with that, because this is a story about redemption. It's a story about like flawed characters trying to be as decent human beings as they possibly can and trying to figure out what that means for them. And then somewhere also in this second issue, Megan takes Wildcat to go to the doctor or maybe a veterinarian, somebody that she knows or trusts. And I'll work out the particulars later where it makes better sense to get his head examined. And that's where we learned that he has had severe trauma to the head. Either something was stabbed through his head or he got shot in the head multiple times, because there is like some brain matter missing, and like entirely new brain matter in there, and then old brain matter. It's a mess. So that explains why Wildcat doesn't have a lot of memories of his past self. Issue 3, we get to where I guess Megan and Wildcat's at the bank for whatever reason. There's a bank robbery that happens at the same bank. And this is where we get introduced to a new villain called the Holy Roller. That's not his official name, it's just my nickname for him. Holy Roller is, by the way, for those that don't know, is Appalachian slang for sometimes for people that are holiness, you know, which is like a church denomination type thing, you know, where you got like Baptist and Pentecostals, whatever, and holiness, you know. So Holy Roller is sort of like slang for holiness. It also can be slang for somebody that is a holier than thou person who basically wears their Christianity on their sleeve as a sign of like how much better they are than other people, you know. Anyway, this is the introduction to the Holy Roller robber, and this guy cites a lot of Bible verses and all this other stuff what time he's robbing people. Oh, I'm terrible. Anyway, Wildcat stops robbery. Holy Roller gets away. The mysterious robot dude who was floating in space, the mysterious dude, he shows up, and I'm thinking about having him pop up in Nevada, and he has to make a long trek across America to get to where Wildcat's at. We get to see Meg at work, maybe some of her co-workers. The old bad guy, we're going to see him talking. Introduction to the big house. Now, if you ever seen Porky's or Porky's Revenge, they have like this big house where a lot of gambling and stripping and stuff is going on. If you've never ever seen Porky's or Porky's Revenge, you need to watch it. Now, if you're a fan of American Pie, you will love Porky's. Okay, and that stuff was made in the late 70s, early 80s. And personally, I think Porky's is better movies than American Pie franchise. But if you don't like that type of crude humor, then you're not going to like Porky's. It's set in the 50s. It's pretty cool stuff. But anyway, like I want a big house that's sort of like that, you know, and it's going to set up something really interesting that's going to happen later on. Meg and Wildcat go to pick up Papaw, so we get to see Megan's Papaw, and he becomes an important character in that. Last but not least, issue 4. And issue 4, mentally, the way I'm thinking about it is, we get action in Wildcat 2, action in Wildcat 3. Issue 4 is basically kind of like setting it's setting stuff up for what's to come, you know. There's a news report about Wildcat, you know, since him and Megan foiled the bank robbery, and this guy's watching this on TV, and he spits out his beer. You know, he's a bad dude, and he's one of the people that helped put Wildcat in that grave. And so basically, he picks up a phone and he calls the other bad guys to let them know that Wildcat's still alive. Papa and Wildcat have a talk. Okay. Local bad guy visits Megan. So when I say local bad guy, I mean local bad guys, some thugs or whatever. They show up, like, and so they have a talk about what happened in the woods. Papa shows Wildcat the pink Cadillac, which needs work, and then it ends with him handing him a wrench. Anyway, so then we get introduced to Wildcat's future car, which is a pink Cadillac, which is gifted to him by Papa, and he has to work on it to get it working again. There's a backstory about that. Strange bad guy talks to Liquidator. So the bad guy who spits out the beer is the strange bad guy, and he's talking to Liquidator, who is a big Wildcat villain that we've not seen yet, who is on his way to deal with Wildcat. And the robot dude, the mysterious robot dude who from space enters Kentucky. Okay, that's as far as I got. And I got these side notes here that kind of summarize what each issue means. Like issue 2 is why Wildcat can't remember nothing. So that's the center piece of that issue. Issue 3 is more mystery. So we're going to add more mystery into issue 3. Issue 4, people know that Agent Wildcat is alive. That's the main focus of issue 4. So I divide things up in that way. So we're going to end this episode. I don't even know if everybody will watch this, but we'll see. We'll see. And it really doesn't matter. I think there will be some days where people will watch my stuff, and there'll be other days when people won't, and that's okay. That's cool, because I know everybody's got their own things that they're doing. I'm just really excited, and I had a lot to talk about, and I haven't got to talk about all of it, so that's okay though. I will try to shorten my videos quite a bit shorter in the future to make them more digestible for those of you that are on the go and just want your information served like a Happy Meal and be on your way. So I'll make that more of a case, and I'll be less political. And drink my chocolate milk. Anyway, I appreciate everything, so I'm going to wrap this bad boy up. As always, if you like this video, please remember to give it a good thumbs up or a like. Helps my videos get seen and all this other good stuff. And if you're not a subscriber or follower yet, please do that. If you really do enjoy my videos, the best way to make sure that you get to see all the newest and latest ones is to subscribe or follow. That way you'll be kept up to date to all that good stuff. And it also helps to support the channel. As always, I love y'all. Appreciate all the love and support. And I will see you in the next video.